were not connected to 9/11, and there were
And there were
no
no weapons of
and
mass
there were no
destruction.
weapons of mass destruction. It was about oil.
Oil and keeping the military industrial complex well funded and
There you go.
justified in this country as well. And that's another big thing we have to remember is there is major connections between the private sector who produces important materials, resources, vehicles, ammunition, weapons for our military, and you have to justify their existence. Otherwise, people aren't going to want to pay hundreds of billions of dollars every single year if there's no enemy.
Are you reading that from something?
No, that just came out of my.
I just saw you reading
I'm
something.
trying to get a little. I always like to keep ourselves abreast of
Right.
the
So
facts
okay.
here.
So you got started. So go ahead and tell us, how did you get your group to how did you get established? How did you grow? What have you been doing? And what are you doing now?
very quickly, it was word of mouth at the beginning. And in January of 2003, we were invited to do a presentation at the National Press Club that was covered by C-SPAN and others. And then it was very interesting in the beginning. The foreign press really followed Military Families Speak Out much more than the US press, but eventually the US press caught on to us. But we grew to have about 200 families. And then when we went on national television, we became 400 military families speaking out again to prevent the invasion. And when hostilities began in March of 2003, we were wondering what would happen. You know, would military families be silenced once the hostilities began? And we found out that no, that was not the case. We doubled and tripled our membership, and we became an organization of over 4,000 military families speaking out at that time to end the occupation in Iraq. And we then joined Afghanistan with that, ending the occupation in both Iraq and Afghanistan, bring our troops home, take care of them when they get here, and never send them off to another military misadventure again. So we had families from all over the United States, every branch of the military. We also had families in foreign bases. And I think that it is safe to say that our voice, together with the voice of veterans and Iraq veterans, when they came home and became Iraq Veterans Against the War, now called About Face Veterans Against the War, that these voices were very important in changing, at that time, a nation that 70% said we should invade Iraq, to some years later, 70% saying this should not happen and the war should end. So I think we found that our voices were very important in the larger movement to end the the war. And we are again looking at what is happening in the United States with everything from the bombing of fishing boats in Venezuela and the Caribbean and Pacific, to the deployment of US military into cities and towns in support of ICE, and now the US and Israeli war on Iran and in the Middle East, and using our voices as military families to help build the movement to end that, end those wars, bring our troops home now, take care of them when they get here. And we don't just talk about the injuries and deaths of our loved ones. Right now, there are 13 US troops who have been killed in the Middle East since February 28th, 2026. But there's over 3,000 Iranian children, women, and men who have been killed. There's the first night of the bombing on February 28th.
Hold on one second. Hold on one second. You know, I
Yeah.
opened up the gate and man, you just went. That was beautiful. Okay, no, hold on, but let me see, because how would you compare or contrast what is going on with us in Iran right now versus what happened in Iraq and Afghanistan?
There's many similarities. Again, what we said in the war in Iraq was if Iraq's most important natural resource was olive oil, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I think that is a theme that goes through Venezuela, it goes through Iran, that there's a deployment of our loved ones for something that, again, is not protection of country and constitution, and it is about oil markets, and it is about dreams of empire.
But don't you think it's interesting, in Iraq, we said weapons of mass destruction, which they don't have. And in Iran, we say we don't want them to have nuclear weapons, which they seem, or at least have had, some materials and some action that suggests that they want a nuclear weapon. And once again, we're saying we're there to take away the nuclear weapon, just like we said we were there to take away the weapons of mass destruction. But there does seem, at least in the case of Iran, there seems to be some evidence.
Not if you believe last summer's invasion. You remember last summer we totally obliterated all of their nuclear capabilities. So
Yeah,
which is it?
I know. But what I'm thinking about is just in terms of our national interests, is trying to think it through, because I happen to think that what President Obama did, which was careful, thoughtful, the product of an enormous amount of diplomacy, strategic thinking, got us about as close as we could get without having hostilities. And even with hostilities, if you were Iran right now, wouldn't you be even more committed to getting a nuclear weapon in light of what has been rained down on you in terms of all these bombings and killings? I mean, in other words, it seems to me that this whole thing could backfire. Now, maybe am I thinking wrongly?
Well, I do have some information here this is directly from www.congress.gov. So this is the official website for Congress. A 2025 public U.S. intelligence assessment stated that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and that the now former because he has perished, of course, Supreme Leader had not reauthorized the nuclear weapons program he suspended in 2003. That is coming from the IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi.
And what is that? What is the IAEA? What is that?
That's a great question, and I'm going to stall while I Google it.
I think that might have been. See, this. I mean,
the International Atomic Energy Agency.
Yeah. See, they were the ones that were doing the inspecting, and So
Mike,
please go.
can we
Yes,
get back to talking about military families
let's do it.
and the impact of
Let's
the
do it.
war on us? We have PTSD too.
Yeah.
The troops are suffering. The
Talk to
family
us about that.
members
Tell
are.
us about how are they suffering and
They're freaking out. Well, we have family members with their loved one on an unarmed base right now that's getting bombed by drones. So, it's just crazy what goes on. But, I remember 20 years ago when my son was deployed to Iraq, how terrified I was for one solid year, every single day. I thought I was going to get that phone call or that knock at the door. And this is what's going on for thousands and thousands of mothers, fathers, grandparents, siblings, aunts, uncles, all of us. So that's also the true cost of war, what goes on with us. But we're
let's talk
in a
about,
unique position to speak to Congress.
Do you have people in your organization now that have children, loved ones in the Middle East right now, in the
Yes, we
Iranian?
do.
Mhm.
Yes, we do.
And what are their feelings?
They're scared to death and they're angry because our country is lying to everyone about what's happening over there. We've got a mother and a fiance who her son and the fiance was bombed in Jordan. I mean, they were defenseless. And then they moved them to another base, and they're still not safe. They're getting bombed nightly with drones. They have no defense system. They're not being fed at this point. And our country is doing absolutely nothing to protect or take care of them. And the American people don't know anything about this because our country is lying.
We really appreciate you for sharing this information because this is news to me.
Arthur, look up, if you will. There was a recent report just in the last couple of days that the amount of damage inflicted on our forces in the region is much worse than what Hegseth and company have disclosed. Have you all heard that those reports in the last couple of days?
In the most recent congressional hearing where Hegseth was there, he was questioned about an attack on a base where some of our soldiers have come out and have told us what it was like. And Hegseth was lying, saying, that maybe a drone squeaked through. That's not what happened. They are being rained on with drones and bombs, and they're not able to defend themselves. And our country doesn't seem to care. What they care about is lying to us and covering it up.
Well, when you say our country, you mean Hegseth and
yes,
Trump and those people, because
yes,
certainly most
our
Americans,
government.
But you know what? Don't you think it's interesting that in the case, like you were pointing out, in the case of Iraq, 70% voted for it. The vast majority of senators voted for it. It was actually an authorized war. Nobody likes to call anything a war anymore, but it was actually an authorized war. But this doesn't have that, right? The 60 days that are up.
I beg to differ with you. It was not authorized. The Congress in 2002 spent more time discussing this use of steroids in baseball than they did about going to war. And in October of 2002, what Congress did was say to George Bush, here, you have authorization. You decide whether or if we're going to war. That is a violation of Article 1, Section 8 of the United States Constitution. The Congress cannot designate someone to hand over that authority. Congress and Congress alone gets to declare war, and they did not.
But you're right. But even that.
I think what you're trying to say, Mike, is that, okay, so post 9/11, we were all outraged because we had been attacked on our own soil. We saw ourselves as vulnerable. So everybody came together, we united, and we became patriotic. And they sold us this war over there, and they tied it into 9/11, even though it had nothing to do with 9/11. They tied it in. So the American people were like, yes, we need to fight back. We need to get rid of the terrorists. My own daughter joined the military because of 9/11, because she saw this as a chance to make the world a safer place. And she now regrets it because she sees that it was all lies. She was given a commendation medal for killing people, and many of those were innocent people, and she's angry about that. And she's angry that we shouldn't have been there in the first place. But here she has a medal that states how many people she killed. And then when you fast forward here to Iran is different because we don't have a 9/11 to go back on. It was unprovoked. Iran was not doing anything to us, and they just sold it to us as there's a threat out there. And a lot of people right now are not buying that. So this war is not supported. And right now, we are the bad guys. We are the terrorists. Because not only is it Iran, it's Venezuela, it's the boats that are being bombed in the Caribbean, it's our military on the streets against us. Don't leave out Cuba. They are killing Cubans. We tried to take over Greenland. We said we would take it by force. So now we're seeing ourselves as terrorists. And for me, this is really difficult because I'm proud of all of my children and their spouses that have served. And I have a grandson in the Navy, and I'm very proud that he made that decision to serve his country. However, I don't want him to be a terrorist either. And I don't want him to be ordered to commit war crimes.
What would you guys, let's think about this. How is this all going to come to an end? I mean, just in a way that would be, that you could support. You know, what has to happen? What should, you know, if you were in charge right now, what would you do?
Well, Congress needs to wake up and
Hmm.
stop. Stop.
Okay, that's okay. We can't do that. So let's next.
Sure we
next-
can.
No,
I
I'm
I
just
think
kidding.
they're complicit as
No,
much as anything.
No, okay.
They
what I'm
are.
saying, but what I'm saying is, you're in charge. You are in charge. What would you do?
We need to end this war and we need to do reparations to all of these countries and people that we have hurt illegally. The people who have done this need to be held accountable. There needs to be investigations and there needs to be, they need to be held accountable and put in prison.
How would you get everybody out of there to begin with? You know, remember we had the Afghanistan problem, and there was difficulty getting away. We don't have that now because we don't have any troops on the ground. So, but what would be the first move in terms of how exactly would you do it? Would you have you just order the military to disengage and to
We are
disembark?
not generals.
No, I wouldn't know how to do that. I don't have any experience in
I don't know.
military.
You sound like a general. You
operations.
sound like a general to me. I don't know what the heck you're saying there. You sound
I got
pretty.
some.
You sound
Okay,
like you
Mary.
could be a gentleman, Mary.
All right, Mary, you tell us how to do it.
There is no domestic benefit to the Iran war. We're not doing it for the United States. So why are we doing it? Why are we there? There are no nuclear weapons in Iran. That has been the CIA. Everybody has told us they don't have them. Why are we there? No benefit to the United States. We're there, unfortunately, for Israel. Iran is in the way of Israel. Israel wants to control that whole area and get rid of Iran, get rid of Lebanon, and expand. That is their goal. And unfortunately, the United States has said yes to a genocide in Palestine. We give them money, we give them weapons, and we say, go ahead and obliterate them. And now we're saying obliterate Lebanon. And now we're saying Israel doesn't like Iran, so we're going after Iran. Why is Israel running our foreign policy? There is no reason for the United States to be afraid of Iran. They were no threat to us.
Okay,
No.
so we agree. Now let's think about this. Okay, let's think about this. So we are all in 100% agreement right now. We all want an end. So what we do is we indicate that we're going to be withdrawing our forces. So let's say now we withdraw our forces and all, and this is what I'm trying to get at is Trump has made it a much worse problem than just us coming back. And it's not just Trump. Trump has put us as a country in a horrible long-range problem because you don't think that Iran is going to retaliate against us
Yeah,
for all the
you-
indiscriminate bombing? You think that they're not going to at some point come back and visit upon our innocent people in this country?
You are
So-
so correct.
so if
We are less safe than we have ever been.
Exactly.
in
Now,
history.
Now, so this is how bad it is. So let's say we withdraw our forces. Now Iran is free to waylay all of the other countries that are allied with us, Saudi Arabia, all the rest of those countries. They now are sitting there thinking, oh, I thought you guys were going to protect us, just like Europe thought with NATO. I thought you guys were going to protect us, but now we're easy pickings for the Iranians, and you've given them every incentive, and even though we might have supported you to begin with, you've given them every excuse to waylay on us, and so that's going to be a problem. So we have, and by the way, they're going to hijack the Strait of Hormuz and make it very difficult for us to get oil out of here unless it's to their liking. So it's getting out of Afghanistan was a difficult problem, but this is to me a 10 times more complex problem, and this president who has no sense of history, no sense of diplomacy, no sense of foreign policy, no sense of strategic thinking, like figuring out what if we do something, what is the other side going to do? So now how do you unravel all this? How do you
I
put the,
think the larger issue is it's never been a politician that's ended a war. It's always been a social movement. And what we are part of as military families speak out, joining our voice with the veterans of other eras and others, is to build the movement that's going to change the way foreign policy has been, is being done, and will be done. And some of that has to do with, who our electeds are, and some of it has to do with a different way of thinking. And I'll, point to the fact that this is the day before Mother's Day, and Mother's Day started because after the Civil War, Julia Ward Howe made a proclamation saying that mothers have a role in international relations,
Keeping
and
the
that our
peace.
sons shouldn't be killing the sons of others, and that we're
Mhm.
going to figure out a different way to do this. That different way still has to be figured out, and we're part of a movement that's going to build that voice.
I love the fact that you brought out that piece of history. I mean, that is, and now who is Miss Howe? Who was Miss Howe? For those that don't remember.
She wrote Battle Hymn of the Republic. She
Very good.
was
There
an
you go.
abolitionist. She was a feminist, and she was very aware of all of the damage that was done during the Civil War to women's mothers, husbands, and sons on all sides, and
Yeah.
felt that there has to be a different way to settle disputes than using weaponry.
See, what's good about your group, and the only thing I can say that is helpful is the vast majority of Americans are with you. They don't want to be there.
Well, so I have actually some bad news about that. I am blown away that the poll results for American public approval or support for the Iran war is only 60% disapprove. 40% of Americans still think the Iran war is a good idea.
Yes, but you know what? When you're talking about war, ask yourself what percentage of the people of the United States supported our position in World War II. Okay, that's to have 60% of the people, like you said before, that we started off with 70 that were in favor of Iraq, and then it turned around, so 70% were against. But I think the fact is 60% of the people are against the war, and I think if you delve further into that, you would see that a lot of those people are just being patriotic and supporting the troops. They don't want to not support the troops, that are in harm's way. But see, so let's ask this: is your group a growing group? Because it seems like you guys are uniquely qualified as the families of the military who are being asked to engage.
We're
in the
growing
hostilities.
again. Because
Yes.
here we go again. We just cannot believe 20 years later, we have started another generational war that we have to be a part of. But this time we are banding with the veterans, the Iraq and Afghanistan veterans. They're mad at what went on over there, and they don't want this Iran war either. We just did a joint protest at the Capitol a couple of weeks ago with About Face and Military Families Speak Out and some other groups. 67 of us were arrested in one of the Capitol buildings.
Were you arrested?
Yes, I was.
Are you okay?
I'm fine.
If you need any help, I'm an attorney. I would get out there and get you out lickety split if you need any help.
Well, you could join that legal part of the groups.
And let me ask you this: do we have anybody in San Diego that is part of your group?
Let me ask Nancy.
Don Kimball.
Yeah.
Don Kimball is part of our group, and Don
Mhm.
Kimball is the one that introduced me to Military Families Speak Out.
Wow.
Tim Kaler is
Tim
there,
Kaler.
and family.
Okay.
Mhm.
Do we have an active organization? Because we have a wonderful Veterans for Peace organization. We have them in from time to time, and they're so knowledgeable. It's astounding their ability to talk about. Now, one of the things that we have heard from our Secretary of State is that the reason we did this is because Israel said they were going to invade or they were going to start bombing indiscriminately in Iran, and that if they did that, then Iran was going to indiscriminately attack us. So since we were going to get attacked anyway, we might as well join in the fun. Basically, that's what he said. Have you heard that? Do you think that's about what happened?
I think the US has also interests in this. I don't think it's just Israel, but the two countries have banded together, and there is some, we have been supplying bombs for Israel, but I think we have our own interests having to do with oil markets, dreams of empire. But I don't, in terms of what needs to happen now, is really, I think, building the voices of those who are opposed, because we have to press the members of Congress right now to do the right thing, which is reassert their war powers and not a nickel or a dime for this invasion and war in Iran, because what we say is, support the troops by bringing them home. Funding the war will kill our troops and more children, women, and men in Iran.
Do you think that Texas might send a few more Democrats to Congress this, in the midterms?
I don't think they can, the way that they've redistricted, redrawn the maps.
So even, in other words, what Arthur was saying is that 40% has been strategically organized into congressional districts that will frustrate trying to get non-war supporters elected?
Yeah, I mean, I believe that Tallarico has a chance in beating Cornyn, if Cornyn is the candidate. I'm not keeping track of whether Cornyn is actually the candidate at this point, but Ted Cruz is going to stay where he's at. And they got rid of Jasmine Crockett's district in the House. So, I mean, they're doing everything that they can to cheat as far as getting rid of the Democratic seats in all of the
Well,
states.
yeah, all of the minorities districts are out
Yes.
the window now.
Yes.
It's almost
yes.
like the Supreme Court is coordinating with Trump.
I know, right.
I
Yeah.
said it's almost like, I would never want to suggest.
Well, the Supreme Court recently released a statement that was just absurdly saying that they don't understand why the American public thinks that they are partisan,
Oh my
which is
word.
Oh
absolutely.
yeah, I don't know why either. I mean, my
Yeah.
gosh, they've just beaten down all of our rights
Yeah,
for
exactly.
one person. I want to go back to our organization growing. We want to hear from more military families because we know that there are more families out there that are being impacted or that are concerned, that have loved ones in the service like we do, and who don't know where to go. And so
How do they get a hold of you? How do they get a hold
okay,
of you?
so we are Military Families Speak Out. We are mfso.org. All of our
One more
information
time,
is there.
slowly do it at 33 1/3 and not 78.
It's
Say one more time.
mfso.org. We are also on Facebook, Military Families Speak Out. We have a Facebook page where you can reach out to us there. We are on Blue Sky at MFSO 2026. We're also on Instagram, Military Families Speak Out. If they reach out to us, we will definitely respond back. We want to be a source of support for all of the families out there, and we want to grow our voice. We want to be loud, and we want Congress, and we want the president to hear us on this. We want Iran to hear us on this, that this is not a war that we agree with.
Okay, let me ask you this. So most of you are in the state of Texas. One of your families is in North Carolina. Is that true?
No, we are everywhere. We're
No,
mostly
I mean, of the folks that
California.
are on the phone, of the folks that are
No.
right now.
California, California.
Boston, Massachusetts.
Missouri, and I'd like to say something too.
Hold on, let me just get all the locations. So we got Boston on the phone. We've got
Davis, California.
Davis, California,
Sophia, North Carolina.
North Carolina,
Mary Ladkey, Kansas City, Missouri.
Kansas City. That's it. That's a good cross section. Do you all ever get together in person?
Yes.
We just did to
in
Storm
Washington.
the
You just
Capitol
told me
in
that.
DC.
You just told me that. Okay, you're right. Okay, but I didn't know if you'd all gotten there together. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you guys how often do you talk on Zoom, or how often do you guys get together and
I wanted to say
commiserate?
something if I could. I haven't. Can I say something?
Of course, of course.
I joined MFSO, for the solidarity and the support and as a vehicle to do something. So I joined like in 2008, and it has been a wonderful, wonderful organization. And I think for people who have someone in the military, we are the people to talk to and to be with and to get the support and find ways to fight what's going on. But also it made me aware to understand what's going on in our world. I have been educating myself for years and years and years. Only 1% of the people in America serve. Only 1%. So we're only speaking to a little bit of people. There has to be a whole lot more people to say no to war. And we should all be saying no to war, because it's not just damaging our men and women and our loved ones, it's damaging everyone in this country. And we have to make them aware of that. National security is not about bombing everybody. It's not about building more nuclear weapons. It's about rebuilding the United States and its infrastructure. It's about creating good jobs, spending our money to eliminate corporate welfare, eliminate huge tax cuts for the wealthy, retain the social safety net, address the climate crisis, which is an existential threat that we are just completely ignoring. Eliminate nuclear weapons. They want to build trillions of dollars more nuclear weapons. We have enough to blow up the world 10 times over. What are we doing? People should be angry about this. That's why we are not taking care of our own people in this country. We are taking it all. $1 trillion this year. Next year, they want $1.5 trillion to spend on killing people. What is that about? They said in this report for taxes this year, the average U.S. taxpayer paid $4,050 for weapons in war last year. That was before the Iran war. Just that amount of money. That's far more money than any program funded by income tax dollars. Medicaid, the next highest item on our income tax receipt, ran a little under $2,500. That's $1,500 cheaper. And Medicaid funds healthcare for 1 in 5 Americans. School lunches, nutrition programs, they only cost us $124 a year. So our tax dollars, $124 to feed people. And then you have the Postal Service. You know what that costs us? $19 a year. We are funding the wrong things. American people have to be angry about this. We only have 1% who serve. We need a lot more anger. And that has to be the country saying, we have had enough of you depriving us of basic services so you can go around killing people. That is what we have to get angry about.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you,
Hallelujah,
Mary.
sister. Hallelujah. I'm with
Absolutely.
you. But listen, we also need to be intelligent and persuasive, and to talk to our neighbors who are misguided and uninformed and ignorant, and to bring them across. When we were doing the anti-war movement at Berkeley, we had some students that would go out and they would argue with, we do door to door, and they'd argue and put down and say, how can you be so stupid? And then, there was a reflection upon that, and there was a decision made using psychology and using the expertise of the school that no, you have to figure out where people are. And then you have to, because you went through the same journey yourselves to some degree, I'm sure, you have to figure out where they are. And then we have to talk with them and become more persuasive. Because the truth is on our side, and fairness and justice and the righteousness is on our side. And so we have to figure out how we can best persuade others to get off so that 40% becomes 0%. Now let's do this. I love your group, because I love the Veterans for Peace, and they're very, very excellent in terms of their knowledge of strategy and diplomacy and I should say military force structures and that sort of thing. But what you're talking about is, here's who's left behind. Here's who's on the home front. Here's who's trying to struggle. What are the difficulties when a loved one goes away? What impact does that have on military families trying to keep the family coherent and keep the family functioning? Can you talk about that?
Fear. Huge fear. I retired on disability by the time my son came home. I had medical conditions that exploded. And I was so frightened. And I want to be that voice on the other end of the phone for another mother or a spouse or some other family member who's feeling like I did 20 years ago. That's why I'm getting re-involved, because I just can't believe we're going to do
But
it
how are
again.
they feeling? So that's what I'm trying to get at. I know you said fear, but I'm talking about what's the practical problems that they have with dad or mom away for an indeterminate period of time. What's the impact of that? What's the impact on the day-to-day efforts to try to keep the kids functioning and the family functioning and, et cetera, et cetera. Talk to us about that.
So one of the, I'm
One
sorry,
is
Mary.
that many military families have to go on food stamps.
Mhm.
We don't take care of our own people. They're on food stamps.
1.2 million.
And that is a disgrace.
Yeah.
And so we don't take care of our own at all. And then when the men and women come home, they have all these issues because they're trained to go to war, but they don't train them how to come home and decompress from all the horrors that they've seen. My son was in infantry combat duty. You're with men in combat, and your buddy next to you now has become a piece of meat, and he looks like ground beef because he got hit by IED. How do you deal with that? How do you come home and deal with that? We don't take care of any of this. We encourage them in the military to drink and to smoke. We do not want to deal with the tragedies that we are creating for our men and
What
women.
about the kids? What about the kids at home? That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the kids.
We have a mom or dad who isn't functioning well. How do you think that affects children?
Well,
Have
that's
you
what I'm
watched
asking.
any
That's
of
what I'm
those
asking.
videos of dads coming and moms coming home and the
I have
kids are
not
just
watched it.
falling apart?
Okay, that's what I'm talking about is exactly that. I mean, elaborate on that. I think it's important for people to understand that it's not just the impact on dad, but it's, you've got a teenage son, a teenage daughter. You've got, the need to have a coherent parenting of the kids. And then you got mom probably having a job. So what is that a life like?
It's stressful. It's stressful for the entire family. And deploying them for reasons that don't have anything to do with protecting our country or our Constitution is just wrong. Um, I think we support our troops. We just don't support these illegal, immoral missions or orders that they're being given. If we're sending our mothers and fathers of these children to places to protect and to help make the world a safer place, that's one thing. You can explain that to children and you can kind of support that. But when you're sending them to kill people for oil or empires, that's when it becomes disgraceful, and it's hard to support that. But yeah, our children are suffering because they're missing parents and their needs are not met. Prior to the startup of all of these conflicts that America has gotten itself into under Trump's second term, Military Family Speak Out organization, we were focusing on the issues of their pay. We were focusing on the issues of the VA services, making sure that our military families were taken care of, that when our service members leave the military, that them and their families are taken care of and have what they need, that they're not on food stamps while they're serving, and they're not on food stamps or homeless when they get out. Those are the type of things that we were focusing on. And then the other big one was our deployed veterans. Do you know that they're deploying so many veterans, or deporting our veterans? People who have served our country are being thrown out of America for like a small crime. And we try to get them back here because they deserve to be back here. And they're separated from their family as well. So these are all issues that our organization has been focusing on prior to this, all of these new conflicts that this administration has created. And we're still going to be focusing on them as well.
Here's what
You
happened to
know-
my son's base. So, Alaska, the whole base went to Iraq. They shut the base down. They sent all the wives home to their original families all over the country. There was no unification for those wives. In my son's Stryker vehicle of 9 guys, every single one of the wives and girlfriends left their guys while they were in Iraq, including my son. By his 6-month furlough, he got the Dear John email, because these women did not have the support to know how to do it. They're young, they're babies. I'm sure a lot of them had kids. Luckily, mine didn't. But that's what's happening to families, and that's what's going to happen again.
I also want to say our membership included over 100 families that are Gold Star. In other words, their loved one never returned or returned and then died by suicide because of what they saw and what they did in a war that should never have happened. So the toll of an illegal, immoral, unjustifiable war is it's limitless. It's bad enough. We can think back to World War II. I am sure that there was a lot of fear among families of U.S. service members who were there. But in this situation, I know that my late husband and I always said the second worst thing that a military family in this situation, in any situation, would face is the death of a loved one. But the worst thing is either a death in a war that shouldn't be happening, or if your loved one took another life, which kills a part of their soul. And when they come home, they're a different person that has to live with that for the rest of their life, again, from a war that shouldn't have happened. And so to see this happening again right now in the Middle East means that we are, redoubling our efforts to grow our organization and grow our voice and join it with veterans and join it with the larger movement to end this war, and then really think about what does this country need to do differently than we've done for the last decades, and some would say centuries, that would be involved in other kinds of conflict resolution. And I do want to quickly read, I unearthed a letter that we got back in 2008 from Venezuela. All right. And the email to military families said, "We Venezuelan mothers and grandmothers understand and share your grief. We pray for you. We hope your crazy criminal leader does not decide to invade our country and provoke another horrible war based on greed and lies." This is Venezuela, 2008.
2008?
Yes.
Who was the
This is
crazy
about the
leader?
Iraq War. This is about the Iraq
Okay, so they
War.
were talking about President Bush.
That's right.
Okay.
But,
We've
can
had,
fast
We
we've
thought
had a
Bush
couple of
was
those.
bad. We thought Bush was as bad as it could get. This is insane what we're doing now.
Most countries see the United States as the greatest threat to world peace. That is how we are now seen. And that is horrible. We are seen now with Trump as the bully of the world. We bully with threats, sanctions, and tariffs. We don't use diplomacy. And it is a nightmare. The whole thing is a nightmare. And it all needs to change.
Well, the roots are really deep. The roots are really deep and multivariable as far as, what's going on. I mean, as there's a massive misinformation campaign that is the reason I believe that there's still 40% of the polled public supporting this. There is corruption all the way at the top in the military industrial complex. There is, the need to create an enemy. And so, it's really hard for us to discuss in a program like this there's no simple solutions. I mean, it runs deep. My question for y'all is, I was actually just looking this up because I was really curious based on, what your all experiences have been with your family members. I was looking at the military recruitment figures. And after there was a major slump in recruitment between 2022 and 2023, but last year, 2025, they met and or exceeded all recruitment goals across the board. And I'm wondering, my question for the group is, it's kind of a two-parter. Number one, what do you think was responsible for that resurgence in recruitment? And number two, if you were talking with a young person who just maybe finished high school and they were interested in joining the military, what would you advise them to do?
I think that's the Trump effect because military recruitment for years was down. Nobody wanted to join. They didn't want to join when Iraq war was on, the Afghanistan war, and even after that. I think the bravado of Trump and of Hegseth is somehow appealing to males and maybe also women because they can recruit as well. And I think that is having a big effect because nothing else has changed. Our wars are still really stupid, and you're getting yourself into tremendous danger. I do think it is the Trump effect, and he's got some kind of an image among certain people that they believe. And unfortunately, those are not the kind of people we want serving in our military. We don't want them following a president like he's a god. He is not. They are supposed to be abiding by the Constitution and doing, what is right and just, and that is not what Trump is. So we're now getting a supply of troops who have a very different way of thinking, which is frightening. And a lot of that has to do with Christian nationalism. They are very big supporters of the Trump way of things. And unfortunately, if you look at the military, there is a trend for this Christian nationalist. It's very white, we're right. Right is might, isn't there some kind of saying like that? And that is their viewpoint of the world. That's who they're recruiting. That is not good for the United States of America.
There's also continues to be the poverty draft, the economic draft, and as the problems go on with the economy, there's more that are looking towards becoming part of the military in order to get a skill or go to college or that. Some of that has always been there, but when the economy is bad, I think recruiting is up. They also changed some eligibility requirements, and there's also people joining for things like healthcare. We had a family whose child was born with heart defect, and the father couldn't find a job with healthcare and joined the military. Unfortunately, he was killed in Iraq. This is what happens in this kind of economy and society, and when we're dealing with such terrible healthcare issues. So I think there's a lot that could be said about this issue.
Yeah,
College is getting more expensive, and it's being demeaned right now. AI is taking all the jobs. My adult children are saying, I'm not going to college. There's nothing for me out there. And my son was recruited at his alternative high school because they said, we have to offer them something. Well, we have to offer them something else.
Yeah.
I'm wearing two buttons here. I don't know if you can see them.
Can tell us about them,
The
please.
one on the bottom, it says, I think it says how many dead. It says dead on top. And this number on the bottom is 6,287, which I think was the last time I wrote on it because it's a dry erase number. And for Iraq and Afghanistan. And this one is the one I've started for Iran. And we're only at 13, but only those are 13 families destroyed forever. And, we just have to make it stop.
Well, and so we are coming to the end of the show. We've just got a few minutes left, and it's been a pleasure. I'm wondering if y'all are interested in that $1 million question. Would you advise a young person to join the military?
No.
No, not at
That
all.
was
Not
unanimous.
this military.
Not this military. I would want to point out to them the war crimes that are happening and, ask them, are you sure you want to be involved in that? Because it's not going to be the people at the top that pay the consequence. It's going to be the people that carried out the orders, as my daughter has found out. She's the one that has to live with the number of kills that she was responsible for, and knowing that many of those were innocent lives.
Let's use the last bit to say whatever else that you feel that you wanted to say today that you haven't had a chance to say. We'll just sit back and listen.
There is a mission now to let troops know that they do not have to obey unlawful orders. And there is support organizations to help them. If they want to become a conscientious objector, if they want to get out, contact us. We can link you up with that.
I also had that it's a Center on Conscience and War, and that number is 877-NO, the number 2, WARS, and they offer free professional counseling. One of the vets who was arrested in DC just recently said, "The war I was sent to senselessly claimed the lives of thousands of Americans and 1 million Iraqis. Like the other veterans here with me today, I have spent the last 2 decades wishing I could turn back the hands of time and refuse to go. Service members have that chance right now. Conscientious objection is your legal right, and we have professional counselors who will fight to ensure you are approved and keep you from deployment." That's the Center on Conscience and War. It's asking all military members opposed to the Iran war to call its hotline 877-NO, number 2, WARS, for free professional counseling.
Excellent.
And I just want to end with military families out there, you're not alone. Please contact us. Look us up, contact us. You are not alone. You don't have to go through this alone. We are here.
One more time, your email or your locate or your contact
Good.
information is.
The website is mfso.org, and that website has all of the information. It has the email and telephone number. There's a telephone number that they can call, and they can get a real person to talk to them. We're also on Facebook, Military Families Speak Out. If you send us a message there, we'll get it. We're on Instagram, and we're also on Blue Sky at MFSO 2026.
Well, we really appreciate you. Anybody who's listening right now, if this has moved you, if you are part of a military family, if you know a military family, we really encourage you to join this wonderful panel of distinguished professionals who are working hard to keep our people safe. So yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. We've just got a minute or two left here. I guess one last question, just in case anybody had a quick answer to this. For those who want to support the troops, what would that look like exactly?
We do support our troops.
Yes, totally. Yes.
We just do not support illegal, immoral wars or war crimes. So we do support our troops very much.
No, and so I just, the question is, what can people do to be supportive other than, of course, going to your website and joining forces with you?
Get their member of
Yeah.
Get their member of Congress to
Yes.
not support any funding, not one more dime, not one more day, not one more life, not one more lie. Stop funding, no funding for this illegal war, and retained the war powers that Congress needs to have per the Constitution of the United States.
Excellent. Fantastic answer. Well, that's going to do it for our show. We really appreciate you guys tuning in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for
Thank
having
you.
us.
Thank you,
Best of luck
guys.
to you.
We will see
Okay.
you all next weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Thanks, you guys. Stay in touch.
Appreciate
Okay. Thanks.
Hey. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
This wouldn't be mine.
Just walked right out without it. That's so silly. You would never catch me walking out without my.
All right, Arthur. Yeah, sorry for there's some audio issues this morning.
Dog, I wouldn't even know where to start with this shit. So thank you.
Yeah, well, it's just Murray, but you're good.
Okay. Yeah, I was so believe me, respect for even stepping up to the plate.
For sure, yeah. I was like, oh, does Arthur know that he has his camera on? I was like, yeah.
I did not know.
Oh, my bad.
No. It's I should have been more conscientious, but no big deal.
Yeah. And then I was trying to get you this thing connected, and I just couldn't get this thing like on at all. And I'm just like, oh my god.
Well, you got a lot of moving parts back here, so no worries. I mean, you know.
No, yeah, it was good. It was definitely a lot of power there.
They know they've got a real serious message. It's hard. It's just like, I mean, it's like so deeply into the corruption, so deep. You know, it's hard. It's just like there's no like answer.
I mean, the answer with my family, my
Yeah.
grandfather finally realized like what was going on,
Yeah.
like a month prior to him passing, you know.
Yeah.
And that was just being too hard, not actually being there.
Yeah.
And then he couldn't say that obviously to his other children that
Yeah.
passed away.
Yeah.
But he said it to me, and he felt like liberated. He felt like
That's
he was
good.
free.
That's great.
And then he said, "I did it, Rose. See, I did it."
What a cool-
Alex?
Yeah, it was a cool
That's
moment.
cool you were able to.
Alex?
Yeah, no, definitely. He was one of the ones that like, if he couldn't help me, at least let me help him.
100%. Yeah. No, that's huge.
And it's like it's just the little things too,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
reconnecting him with one of his like brother-in-law's like nephews, and just like reconnecting. He definitely kind of just isolated, patriarchy,
Yeah.
and then kind of everyone, was kind of just left alone as is. I'm not gonna check up on you. Should be doing good. Should be where I'm at. Why do we waste time? But yeah, time will heal, I guess.
And just keep doing the right things the best we can. So,
Well, you have to stand up too, though.
Yeah,
How do you
it's
stand
true.
up in a family?
yeah.
Like
That's a complicated question.
you're the child and stuff, and then or
Now we're adults, and it's like, well,
Alex?
hey, Marie.
Hi, thank you. I listened to the stream off and on, and the audio sounded okay to me.
Okay, cool. I need to end the stream actually. I totally forgot that we were live streaming. Let me end it real quick. All right, Arthur.